Hi, Liz.
Hi.
So we were just at what was the case that we were at just now, please?
We were just at the UK-EU challenge in the High Court, looking for permission for a full judicial review.
How did it go?
Well, it was fascinating, and it was very lengthy, given that it was just a case to ask if they can have permission for a full hearing. Some judicial review, the whole hearings only last a couple of hours, so the fact that the permission hearing lasted 6 hours is quite extraordinary.
What was the government's case?
Basically, the government's saying that the challenges are too late and they should have brought this timely within 3 months of the letter being sent to the European Union.
And what is the challenge?
The challenge is saying that the decision to leave the EU is unsafe. It was made by the Prime Minister, which is unconstitutional because one person can't make a decision for in fact not just Britain but the whole of Europe, because rights are lost. As well as they're saying that the decision that she made was built on fraud, because there's been findings of fraud in the Electoral Commission, and those findings are ongoing because the NCA are still investigating the criminal activity that's in Vote Leave and Aaron Banks, blah blah blah. The government has said that you're too late to question the decision, and that the fraud was well known. Everybody knew about it, including the Prime Minister, and because the referendum was advisory, it sort of doesn't matter, which is extraordinary. So the claimants basically are saying that absolutely it's a huge matter of constitutional importance because we all lose rights from this decision, and the government are telling the people that it was a democratic decision.
So the government lawyers are saying that the referendum didn't matter, and then at the same time Theresa May is saying will of the people.
Yes.
Could you just go over that?
Yeah, well, the government, the Prime Minister made the decision by writing the letter to the EU, and in that letter she stipulates that the decision was made by the people in the referendum. Despite the fact that the Miller case ruled there was no decision made in the referendum. So had the referendum been binding, actually this would all be over, and the result of that referendum would have meant, the result of the fraud in the referendum would have meant that the decision to leave was invalid. But because the referendum was advisory, it slipped through it slipped through some sort of hole, really, a black hole, because it's being used as, well, it's advisory, so because they won by a very small percentage, it matters, and so this is the mess that we're in.
So it's a combination of legal and political, in the sense that politically it's binding, legally it isn't.
Exactly, and that's what the government is saying. It's politically binding. And they're saying it's politically binding because of the referendum result. And I suspect, my gut is telling me, the reason it's binding to the government probably is because of the donors to that referendum feel that they got the result that they needed to get over the 50% line, despite the fact there was no threshold either in that referendum. It was advisory with no threshold. It never legislated for what a win was, and no one's actually challenged that. However, everybody sees a 50, because of our general elections, a 50-50 result.
So you were saying that there was electoral fraud. Could you just go over that a little bit, please?
Well, the electoral fraud has been extensive, and it's been well publicised in terms of the campaigns all being meant to, they've basically been, they were one campaign, but they managed to get around the spending rules by maintaining that they were different campaigns, as well as, on top of that, Aaron Banks, who seems to have got a large amount of money, and there's all sorts of questions around where that money has come from. He doesn't have a registered address in the UK, and there's a lot of people seem to think that money has come from Russia. The strategy behind the arguments for the government were really around saying that the challenges, the claimants, are too late. That they should have made, they had a responsibility to act in a timely manner, despite the fact that the Electoral Commission findings were not found until the summer this year, 2 years after the referendum.
And then there was some other argument saying that once the Electoral Commission findings were made, then after there's still a right to appeal or something like that. So on one hand they were saying it's too soon, and the other one they were like, you've got to sit it out.
Yes, because there are appeals still in process around other aspects, the Darren Grimes thing, but some of them are just a permission on paper to ask for appeal. So it's not actually waiting for an appeal, it's actually waiting for permission to appeal.
Okay, so how does this all affect Monday, Tuesday? Because apparently you've got Monday ECJ vote, decision, and then on Tuesday night you've got the vote from in Parliament for the withdrawal. For May's agreement.
Well, the judge indicated he was hoping to give a decision about permission either on Monday at 2 o'clock or on Tuesday. So the decision about whether this case will have permission will be known before Parliament votes on the withdrawal agreement. What impact will it have? If permission is granted, it will have a significant impact on the vote for the withdrawal agreement.
Because a case will then be heard probably quite soon where the decision to do Article 50 will then is being questioned.
Well, yes, because as the judge pointed out at the hearing today, that if it's found that the decision to leave is unsafe, then in effect you don't even need to revoke Article 50. The whole thing is just invalidated.
Right, if it was unsafe then there was no Article 50 in the first place.
No.
And we'll have to just say to the EU, by the way, there really wasn't
an
Article 50 in the first place.
It was just dress rehearsal Brexit, yeah.
Right, that'd be quite good, I suppose.
Yes. Clearly there would have to be another vote and we'd have to find out what went on with interference to make sure that votes are safe in the future. So we'll just have to wait and see. Who knows? But fingers crossed for a good result. However, if they don't get permission, it's still fantastic that this has had 6 hours of a public hearing, and there has to be a written judgment if they don't get permission as to why they haven't got permission. And that in itself all then helps another piece of the jigsaw for when we eventually will get a public inquiry, which hopefully we will.
Yeah, it was fascinating for me understanding the way in which every single different case has been built on another case.
Yes.
Could you say anything about that?
Well, this case is built on my case, which is the missing decision, the Article 50 challenge, which we always asked right from the beginning, that we always knew that she notified, and this came up a lot in the court today, that Parliament gave her the power to notify, and she then notified, and in doing so she decided at the same time. So that is really the crux of the matter. Everything is obfuscated and a mess. And it should be, as it's such an enormous constitutional decision, it should be absolutely clear as to what's going on, that everybody understands what it means to them, especially as we all are going to potentially lose rights by the actual leaving the EU.